Hey, what's up guys? John here. We're witnessing something very big in the US housing market, and it's not the leverage, it's not the amount of debt people have, it's not insurance premiums, it's not taxes, it's not the jobs being cut, it's crime. Crime is getting out of control, and what's occurring is likely going to push a lot of people outside of cities. I believe places like Los Angeles, San Francisco, places like Chicago, Boston, all of these dense cities that all follow a lot of the same policies are going to push a lot of the high tax paying revenue, residents out of the cities. And where are they going to go? Well, currently they're leaving and going to the southeast, but I believe they're going to start to move 20, 30 miles outside of the city into safer suburbs. And they're going to commute into town when they have to show up for a work meeting. However, I believe that this work from home trend is only going to likely continue, and this is going to really change city living. I believe what's going to follow is that a lot of these office buildings inside of cities are going to be converted into apartments. I think that these cities are going to really become dense, very, very dense. And people that have the money, that can afford it, that have children, they're going to look at this and say, you know what? Maybe I can afford it, I'm going to leave. Well, I have children, even if I can't afford it, I'm going to extend myself. I'm going to leave. People are going to really start to push for this. Because if you have a child, like I do, I have 2 children, I would not want to live in a city if I thought that those children would not be safe there. If the law was not in the favor of the child, I would move. And now what I'm seeing here is the data suggesting that this is only the beginning. Hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube's going to share this content to educate more people about what's going on in the housing market across the country in big cities. Newt Gingrich warns civilization will break down over rising crime rates in big cities. This came out yesterday. Former Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich warned that civilization will break down if crime rates in big cities across the country continue to spiral and hands off to district attorneys and fail to enforce the law. When you have that level of crime, you have in New York and Chicago, Atlanta, all of a sudden you have to realize that we have to do something, right? He told this billionaire, John Katsomaitis, he's a supermarket real estate billionaire, on WABC 77 AM radio show in an interview that aired Sunday while citing spiking murder rates in New Orleans and Philly. People are going to begin to realize they have to change the district attorney, and you have to hire enough police, and you have to enforce the law. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg and Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Kastner have come under fire for embracing criminal justice reform while crime spikes in their cities. In Philly, speaking of Philadelphia, a triple shooting happened just outside of an elementary school. And 4 men shot, 1 fatally. This is 1 person on a moped in Queens. We all heard about what just happened at McDonald's, where a man with a machete was going crazy, and he was just released without bail. So if you're letting people know and you're signaling to people, hey, you can do things here, things that you couldn't have done 2 years ago, and you will be, a catch and release. What's going to happen when we're in an inflationary environment? Food costs is much more expensive. Utility costs are going up. Rents have been going up dramatically over the last couple of years, even though some cities are currently, pulling back slightly, but they're still up dramatically from what they were a few years ago. And then we have jobs being cut. What I think is ultimately going to happen is it's just going to signal to criminals and people that are not yet criminals that, hey, if you risk it, you need some money, you need to feed your family, you risk it, commit a crime, it's not going to be that bad. You can go ahead, you could try. That's what this is signaling. In Los Angeles, in Beverly Crest, which Beverly Crest is off of Coldwater Canyon in Beverly Hills. This is just a mile or 2 from the Beverly Hills Hotel, surrounded by multi-million-dollar estates, where people traveled from Northern California. They robbed these people $75,000 worth of jewelry. And this is what I think is going to happen here. They traveled from Northern California and targeted this neighborhood. I think Chicago, January 1st, 2023, they are really loosening up the criminal system, allowing people to basically get away with anything. If this is going to in fact happen, and this is going to be accepted, would it be far-fetched to say that people are not going to travel from other locations to that city to really just do what they want to do? Right? Is it crazy to say that? I don't think it is. I think that that's very possible. In NBC News, 17 LA gangs involved in follow home robberies that target people once they are alone. Police said the robbers tail the victims, wait until they're isolated, and steal expensive items, an ongoing trend. More than a dozen gangs in the Los Angeles area are targeting people and robbing them of watches, jewelry, expensive items. The thefts are all part of the trend that the Los Angeles Police Department call follow home robberies, in which suspects target victims, follow them, and then rob them as they go into isolated areas such as their homes. In one alleged attack on Monday, a woman leaving a jewelry store in downtown LA was followed home by two people in a silver Dodge Challenger. Police said in a news release as she approached an intersection, one of the people got out of the Challenger, approached her car with an unknown tool to shatter her driver's side window. The victim attempted to drive away but was unable to due to heavy traffic. When the vehicle stopped, the victim exited the vehicle, ran westbound on 8th Street seeking help. Violent crimes creeps up in Boston, and homicides are up in nearly 30 major U.S. cities. 30 cities. This is why I really believe that this trend is going to continue. It's almost statistically impossible for it not to continue. The only way that this would in fact pull back is if crime was to be stopped. If there really were, a system in place to where people would be punished for crimes, inflation were to come down, and, people are not pushed into financial hardship. But if you look at the middle class, they're getting absolutely decimated right now. I believe that there is no stopping this. In the next 1 to 2 years, we are going to start to see rents fall in these cities as they increase housing stock by converting offices into apartments. Same thing with strip centers, shopping centers, malls. They start to convert all of this into offices like they are already doing. You start to increase the housing stock, what's going to happen? Rents are going to come down. What happens when rent comes down? Property tax revenue comes down. And what happens when property tax revenue comes down? Less police, street services. The cities start to fall apart rapidly, right? And if the cities start to fall apart, who's going to travel there? You're going to lose a tourist revenue. Look at New York City. Look at Los Angeles. They depend heavily on tourism. Who's going to travel there? Not many people if crime is through the roof. That's ultimately just going to bring down the services inside these cities, which is going to have a huge impact on the quality of life. And I think a lot of people are just going to continue following the trends, and then ultimately people are going to follow their U-Haul out of there. Americans are moving out of major cities and opting for southeastern states, data shows. Since the start of the pandemic, where Americans are choosing to live has been in the flux. And 2.5 years in, people are still opting to relocate, although at lower levels than prior to the pandemic, in some cases to escape expensive housing markets or to accommodate remote work. According to the data from moving and storage companies Pods, Americans are moving from big cities like Chicago, LA, and Washington, D.C. to southeast states like Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia, where home prices have been historically lower and where nature is more easily acceptable and safer. The top ranking cities for moves are Sarasota, Florida, according to the company, which is keeping up with the trends from last year in 2021. Pods reported 6 Florida cities that made it to the company's list of top 20 cities they moved to. Yeah, you move to the Southeast, favorable taxes. You look at what you actually pay. If you make $1 million a year in Los Angeles, hypothetically, you would pay over $500,000 just to state and federal taxes and city taxes. You add everything in, over half of your income. Why would you spend over half of your income, if you're a high income earner, to live in a place that you didn't feel safe? That's the big question. I think we're going to witness big trends. I don't think that this is going to end anytime soon. And I really believe that if you are investing in these cities, make sure you are buying an incredible deal. Not at today's rents, not at today's valuations. If you can't find a distressed seller that has to get out of that deal, that you can buy that deal for 30, 40, 50% under market value, and there's a big opportunity to increase the current value, I wouldn't touch it. I would not touch it. I think big trends are coming, and I think that this is just signaling, and the increased interest rates are only going to make things much, much harder for not just property sellers, but everyday Americans that have to service the expensive debt that they've been carrying over the last couple of years. What do you think about this entire situation? Do you think we're going to see the big exodus of places like LA, New York, places like Chicago, Boston, all of these expensive cities that have really went through a big change? Do you think we're going to start to see more people leaving those cities if they feel like they're not safe? Drop it below and hit the like button, subscribe on my second channel. It's an interactive call-in show and a podcast, and also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you need help fixing your credit, go to cashnow.video. You want to learn about real estate investing, you want to get started on YouTube, go to thisisjohnwilliams.com, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.